You know, I gotta be honest, had we not had Attack on Titan this season, this would have been, a way for me to ease the pain of not having Attack on Titan in a season, because seeing this colossal beast, it was awesome. It was literally looking at a colossal titan in the world of Bisco, and I wouldn't have it any other way. And all I can say after coming out of this episode, seeing Kurokawa, right? I mean, I love his antagonist vibes, I love his selfishness, I love I guess you could almost call it generic desire of just to manipulate humanity for a profit. That is such a realistic, like, scummy criminal desire. That's what makes him such a great antagonist on top of having one of the best voice actors in the industry. So to have him get revived by this creature that is literally a walking apocalypse, all I can say is it's just a matter of time till Bisco comes back. I know there was a decent amount of people who were convinced Bisco would stay dead, but there was also, it seemed like, a good majority who were like, nah, there's so much insanity to this show, a character coming back from the dead isn't to be unexpected. But I do appreciate if they do bring Bisco back, they didn't do it in this episode. They're actually letting him stay gone and letting characters like Milo steal the show and basically really act like he is within his heart and he's honestly becoming a badass. So even if they don't bring him back, like, you can tell he could carry the show based on what we're seeing. But given the fact that they revived the antagonist and seemingly, said main character died alongside him, I mean, he's got to be inside that creature as well. I think it's a matter of time. I wouldn't be shocked in the slightest if the season finale for the show was Bisco coming back in some way. But still, this episode was insane because it's one of those situations where you could probably watch an entire episode of characters not even really talking, but just seeing what this creature can do, because this literally is something that can launch a giant laser blast of doom that will destroy everyone with the rust disease, right? And I mean, there's shots in this episode where heavy artillery, we have tanks, we have attack helicopters, we have enough to take out most things in a world. And you see the helicopter just get sliced like a laser sword went through it. You're seeing explosions left and right. There's so many shots where you see like an explosion go off and it feels like a nuclear bomb detonating. Like, if they wanted to make this episode feel devastating, they nailed it without much struggle, in my opinion. I just love seeing the design of this beast because the thing that I've always loved about this show in terms of production is how they actually incorporate CG and usual material that I think anime fans push back against more often than not. But the idea of how they blended it with, once again, this amazing shading technique. I mean, I loved it from Akagawa, the crab that they ride on, everything like that. Just seeing how they blended into this world, it didn't look off-putting in the slightest. They actually nailed it through and through, and I especially loved the explosion details, the kind of laser effect details, and even the mushrooms coming onto it, which most of that was like all 2D and whatnot. Like, it was just so cool to see how they mixed the 2D and 3D so seamlessly, but into this style that we've come to know and expect, and that's what made it so cool. And to see Milo really kind of rise to the occasion, and I mean, there were so many points where I was like, yeah, he really is taking Bisco's words to heart. He's acting like Bisco in a lot of ways. Or down a mountain, I think he used a sign, if I'm not mistaken, to do so. And they're launching the mushrooms with a Jabi team-up. I mean, if any character was going to die first in the show, in my opinion, it would have been the old man Jabi. But to see him actually kind of work together, even though he's heartbroken about the loss of who probably, in his point of view, is like a son to him, right? And the fact that now he's working with the person that his so-called son basically saw as like an apprentice. Like, it's just so cool and heartwarming, but then a little devastating to see the end of the episode take place. I don't know who these characters are, but they had a badass outfit. It almost reminded me of Elden Ring, I'm not gonna lie, because I mean, I've been playing a lot of Elden Ring, but there's like armor that just makes you look like really fat and round. It just kind of reminded me of that, except they had rocket launchers apparently. And it was just like, I knew immediately they were probably not going to make it, but I liked the idea that they got so inspired that they wanted to help. Unfortunately for them, it seems like they kind of got caught up in the blast. But it was just like one of those episodes where it felt like an episode 11 in most shows. And what I mean is, you have something like, say last week, right? That would be normally an episode 10. This week would be the episode 11 where, okay, like the big bad, the most devastating thing, we'll resolve it next week for a satisfying finale, and then maybe we'll have a season 2 someday. Instead, this show's like, no, episode 10 we're gonna have that. Maybe episode 11 is going to be even worse, and then maybe we'll have a satisfying end? We don't exactly know, and that's what's so crazy about this show. is that since episode 1, it said we're gonna have characters shooting off mushrooms through arrows, we're gonna have like an elite guard wear bunny mask, we're gonna have the most insane shit ever, yet somehow we're gonna make it all feel natural for the world that we're in. So seeing what we're seeing now doesn't feel like having basically a giant colossal titan walking around feels out of place. It feels the most in place thing that I think I've seen. I mean, last week, look at all the characters they were fighting. Like, it's just absolutely insane how all of these ridiculous ideas, or what should be ridiculous ideas, mesh into the show so well. And I'm still so shocked that this is just a novel of this story. Like, just think of where the anime could go from here. There's so many possibilities, and I mean, last week, I don't feel like it negates anything. I think there's just a lot of shit going on in this world. It was still emotional last week, still emotional this week, because the characters firmly believe, you know, he ain't coming back, even if the viewers unanimously agree that he probably will. I love seeing how the characters respond to that despair, and even like Tyro as an example is just kind of shocked that someone that she probably cared about at that point, even though she might argue about it, was dead. It's just so great to see the characters' responses from the general soldiers to people we've come to know and love in this show, with the OST continuing to blow me away. I mean, we had that classic riff that we expect in the high-octane moments towards the end, but most of this episode had an almost like glitchy kind of sound distortion vibe to it, and it added to the apocalypse walking in front of us so damn well. And with how crazy this show actually is, I wouldn't be shocked in the slightest if, like, when they're delivering most likely the final blow to this creature, we see Bisco, like, open up its mouth and crawl from the stomach acids, and he's like, I'm back, bitches. Like, that's the type of shit you can expect from this show. Because it really did, I think, in any other case, that is, had we had a show where it was this absurd, that had so many different ideas, so many different scalings of what is danger, yeah, maybe some of these twists and turns would feel a little unnatural. But I mean, you can go back to my first impressions of this show. I was saying this shit is wild. This shit is unlike anything else this season and is going to be the dark horse, or one of the dark horses most likely. And it's lived up to that. I think there hasn't been that many shows that have established themselves as batshit anime as this one has, and then over the course of it escalate even further past that to make it one of the most insane grab bag of ideas, but stick its landing every single week. I really think this show could get a very, very big following post-anime, like, you know, maybe a month from now, maybe a year from now. And even if it doesn't get a season 2, there's something about it that just screams this could have a cult following. It already has a decent following as it's airing, but it feels like something that could blow up in popularity and could spiral many seasons as well. You never quite know, right? But shit, I'm loving this show, and I'm so glad it's lived up and even surpassed my expectations, which are already pretty high to begin with at multiple points, including episodes like these. Thoughts and feelings, though, of course, if you have any, because this was a pretty insane episode, all things considered. What did you think? What do you hope to see next week? Leave a like if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new around here. Till next time, everyone, please take care and have a good one.